We're going to spend some time reviewing some elements of upcoming assignments, as well as kind of thinking about the assignments that you, I believe, are either submitting today or maybe have submitted. By raise of hands, how many of you have already submitted the Black-Scholes assignments for today? Okay, more than I might have expected. And what about the evaluation case? Okay, again, well, very good. We're gonna talk about those a little bit. I don't want you to feel like you need to go change what you have submitted. If there's anything that I discussed that would cause you to think, wow, I better change this. But I wanted to help you put one of the next assignments into better context. And that's the valuation report and presentation assignment. Okay. And when I say context, I mean some of the elements I'm going to be looking at for that. So we're going to talk about those two assignments for a moment. Then we're going to talk about our scalar visit. We'll talk about our final assessment and the valuation case or presentation and report assignment. And then we'll go in and begin the discussion on the valuation report as Jacob is assigned to do this today. You might notice that Jacob's not with us. You can't see him. I think of all of us, he probably has the most challenging internet connection. And so after spending about an hour and a half the other night trying to figure out how he was going to deliver this, we finally decided, and we tried doing a Zoom meeting that he could record locally and then post for me, and we tried all kinds of things. And he even went to another part of the area that he's living in to try to get a better internet connection, and just wasn't happening. So I went ahead and told him to send me his PowerPoint presentation and a script. And then I have added to his presentation a little bit, and I will walk you through what he would have walked us through otherwise. He's done the work on this. He's put in the time. And in fact, I think he did a good job. But it's just not going to be realistic from where he is. And he's at a cabin somewhere in Washington State. His father took the family and got them about as far out of Dodge as they could, and has got them isolated, probably similar to what your dad would like to do, Logan. Only they're not bothering with masks or anything, because if they see people, they just shoot them. So that's how isolated and remote this would be. So with that, any questions that you've got on things you're working on at the moment? And we always kind of start there. Okay. The way that we've set this class up has kind of translated a little bit differently in our Zoom environment than it would have in a live environment. But I don't know that it's been substantially different. I think it's just been a little bit different. This is the first time, of course, that I've had the class as a full semester class, something other than a May term. And I've taken things out of it that we've done before, and I put things into it that we hadn't done. Give me a sense for just a moment of how effective this is to this point in helping you have a better grasp on valuation versus what we might have studied in Finance 309. What are some of your thoughts?
I thought it was really useful to run through a bunch of different model forms and kind of get a better understanding of like a broader range of forms.
Let me ask a question about one of those, and that's going to be blue sky. Should the blue sky model only be applied to firms that are auto dealers or tractor dealers or firms that have large saleable inventories, or can we apply it elsewhere?
I think it'd be maybe more useful to apply it to firms that it was designed for, because it would have like a bigger impact maybe and be easier to see kind of what it was made for. But it was not terrible to apply it to our firms either.
What does it, when you apply it to your firms, what does it do for you that, say, a DCF or a multiples based would not?
Broke out that goodwill value.
You can break out goodwill, yes. What else? So think about, we've got Car Enterprises. And Car Enterprises, it's a regular company. It's got a certain amount of inventory. It's got quite a bit in the way of tangible fixed assets. servers, production line, and it owns its own real estate. Can we capture the value of Carr Enterprises in a multiples-based model or in a simple DCF income approach model? We really can't, can we, Kira? We're missing the richness of that heavy capital investment in some of the fixed assets, and we're especially missing the richness of the firm with respect to the real estate that it holds. Now, most people would tell you don't hold real estate inside your firm, hold it in a separate entity, but you may have those coupled. And when we do that, when we do hold it in the firm, we've got to have a way of capturing it. Think about the blue sky model. Yeah, I'm not quite sure that John realizes exactly what's going on here, and I'm just hoping he doesn't stand up. Okay. It's okay. We're messing with you, John. So think about that blue sky model as simply an extended model that you can think of for tangible assets. And you kind of did this, of course. You took and established a value using the cash flows, and then you added to it a net tangible asset value. Excuse me, you established a value using a multiple, I believe. And if it was an auto dealer or a transport dealer or something like that, you might have been able to find multiples by Kerrigan report and Hague report and such. But if it wasn't, if it was just Carr Enterprises, we're going to find the multiple that Carr Enterprises would have based upon its comparable firms in the marketplace. But then we're going to add net tangible assets to it. So think about it more as a model in which we can recognize the value of a firm that has substantial net tangible assets. That we've given it a blue sky name is what helps us get to goodwill. But in the years since that was developed as a concept, then that blue sky name and blue sky multiple has become a published element with respect to auto dealers as well. So that's kind of coincidental. It didn't start out that way. Okay. Other thoughts about how we're delivering this and such?
For me, I love that we have integrated into this course meeting with finance firms like Lone Peak and Econ Partners. I think that's been super helpful in just getting an idea for, what a career in finance looks like, and valuation specifically. I almost wish that we did that in that was built in maybe earlier in the major. Part of me thinks that, but either way, it's super valuable, and I really have enjoyed that.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. You've gotten a very different sense when we visited Lone Peak than when we visited with Econ Partners, right?
Right.
Very different companies. And you're going to get yet a completely different sense when we visit with Scalar. Zach at Scalar has a dynamic to him. And there's a youthfulness to his environment and dynamic that I think you're going to find very appealing. And as it turns out, it's very productive as well. Very productive. Yeah, and we've done that in the other May term versions of this as well, Pat. We've gone to 3 different places, and I think we do lose a little bit in not being able to go to Econ Partners or go to Scalar. I don't think it translates as well as being in a video meeting, because we don't get to walk around and talk to people. But I appreciate you saying that. Anything else? Anything you wish we had done at this point, or you wish we were going to have done, but obviously aren't doing? Okay. Well, as we walk through evaluation report in a little bit, you're going to see that one of the elements we're missing is having you guys go through and do a good, rigorous economic analysis. I elected to not do that because this isn't expressly an economics course. And I think you can do both a macro and micro construct economic analysis just from some of what you already know. And this would be an analysis of the landscape around us in which this particular firm exists, right? And the macro may even take influences that go to the global or nation state level. Certainly will take other local macroeconomic issues. And the micro will deal with the industry and the market in which the firm exists. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Black-Scholes. I'm gonna share my screen with you. In fact, I'm gonna set it so that you guys can as well, although I don't know that you're going to choose to today. And I think you see the presentation in the, okay, very good. All right, so with respect to the Black-Scholes, so as you're thinking about not only the assignment that you probably have already submitted, but thinking about how that assignment integrates into the valuation report, I'm expecting to see in that a discussion of options that are outstanding, and this is more of a discussion than it is cap table as we deal with this part. So a discussion of options outstanding. And by the way, would we use the Black-Scholes model to value existing outstanding options, or would we only use it to value newly distributed options? Well, did any of you use the model to value the options that already exist for the company?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
just the ones that exist. That's the one that I used it for.
Okay. So when we use it for the ones that exist, what does it tell us? I don't mean give me the number, but conceptually, what does it end up telling us?
The value of that option in terms of like a speculative value and an intrinsic value.
Okay. So these are predominantly privately held firms, right? So the options probably are not tradable. What's the virtue in knowing what their value is if I already own them but can't trade them? Yeah, I'm not sure what it is either, to be honest with you. I agree with you, Britton. It does exactly that. That's what it will tell us. I'm just not sure what the virtue of it is. It doesn't help us understand a taxable event, because if they're already held, they've been held for a period of time. Someone acquired them in the past, so we're not going to worry about what happened in the past. I think it's a good exercise to know what they're worth, but that may be more of an exercise than anything else. You'll find the model, which is designed to give us a price, is probably more focused on options that are being distributed or provided to key employees today to help us understand the taxation event that might happen for them, to help us understand the alignment that that tool gives the firm and the employee, and then to just set that price, if you will. So even though they're more specific, the model's more specific to new option transaction, you still can use it, apply it against existing options. Just recognize it's not as rich a instrument against existing options. Now, I think Logan, it was you and yours where you found that your existing options were worth like nothing, something to the 12th E, right? Which
Yeah,
barely
they
measure.
really weren't worth much at all.
No, in fact, I think when it wasn't just that each option was worth virtually nothing, it was all of them together were still worth less than a penny, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's because they were so far out of the money and the time to exercise was lengthy. Well, I don't know that that's bad to learn, right? So if I'm John Q, Vice President, and I have an option for 15,000 shares in Skalka Enterprises, I might think I've got something of real value here. When in fact, when you take those options that I hold, put them into this model, we find out that I've got something worth about 13 cents, and that's on a really optimistic day. If that's the case, how would you as the business owner respond to John Q, Vice President, who now realizes he's been working the last number of years with you, and this option you've granted him, or these options you've granted him, are worth nothing? What would you do?
I mean, I know we talked about, Rick, but you could actually talk to that manager about changing the strike price at which they could strike and obtain those, execute their options But at the same time, I think you're in a really unique boat there, because to get in that scenario, it's kind of tough in general for a firm, but you definitely could look at changing that strike price to try to align the goals, align their goals with the firm's while still having a level of growth the firm can obtain.
Okay. So Logan, I don't think they're as unique as you think they are. Think about all the small businesses that get put together and that think, we don't have enough cash to pay everybody the way we'd like to pay them. So we're going to give them something of value that's not cash compensation. We're going to give them options. And these options really become valuable for them if the company becomes successful. So I set this, here the company has just barely started. I set these options and give them to you guys, our key lieutenants here. And we do them at strike prices of $10 and $15, knowing that, we would love to be in a position within the next couple of years to have gotten to a point where $10 or $15 is undervaluing our company on a per share basis. But now it's 5 years later and we're not there. In fact, we're only at a couple of dollars per share in value. How motivated are you then to continue to work your guts out for something where that carrot is still so far out in a monetary basis? I think
not super.
No, the luster or the shine is off the apple, right? And so I don't think it's as unusual as you think it is. It may mean that the original expectations weren't all that realistic, but I don't think it's unusual. In fact, I have seen scenarios where the business owners have gone through and then adjusted strike prices, because if the carrot is so far out and the motivation to try to have the company's best interest at heart is starting to wane, you've got to do something to bring that back into alignment. And the only thing you realistically can do is bring down the strike price, which will increase the value of the option, right? Now, it may still be far enough out that we have to stretch and work like mad to get the company to a point where we've achieved this, but at least we're going to be willing to do that rather than something that we just look at this and say, there's no way. It's going to take so long, so much, or it's just, we're defeated. So think about these options as motivational instruments and think about things that you might do within the company. So as you continue this, for the valuation report, if you don't have an option set up for the company that you can value, you still need to do something. So I want you to represent the current options outstanding and give them value and such, as you probably have already done. But I also want you to think about identifying a hypothetical option grant to key employees. So when you do this valuation report, think about a hypothetical option grant to key employees. So create another option pool, think about the strike prices, the exercise windows, number of shares in the pool, and then value those and talk about the tax implications, talk through how you got these through the utility of the option pricing model, and talk about how we're aligning the interest of the firm and the stakeholders. And so some of this you did within the assignment you just submitted, but to the extent that you didn't, as you're getting ready for the valuation report, this is what I'd like to see. Okay? Any questions about this? Let's move to the valuation case assignment. Alex, I'm going to give you a second to come off of mute. Tell me how you approached the evaluation case assignment that you've just submitted.
I mean, a lot of it was similar to what I had in the LBO. Pieces were the same, but I just used, the multiple and DCS that I had. Just a lot of what I had in my Word document was similar as well. Just changed a few things.
Okay, so you focused on two models.
Mm-hmm.
You came up with a value, either by doing some averaging between them or some weighting or just suggesting that, well, this one's not as relevant, however, and you walked us through that discussion in text, right?
Yeah.
and but you focused on them all, and you probably gave some representation of how the models worked out in terms of here's how this one plays out, here's how this one plays out, maybe even showed us a range, and then showed us how you got to your singular value, right?
Mm.
And that's exactly what I expect. And moreover, it's what I expect with respect to the valuation report. Only in that case, you'll use the two models. One of them must be an income-based model, so a DCF of some kind. The other one must be a multiples-based model. And I would recommend that be a basic multiple, not a forward market multiple model, but just identify the multiple using the comps, etc. And then apply that multiple to whatever the relevant cash flow variable is, and it's going to say, here's the value, right? And you might then bracket this by having a range of multiples, because let's say we've pegged 6.5, but let's be honest with each other, it could have just as easily been 6, or it could have just as easily been 7, because we're guessing using comps, right? And so you're going to walk me through all of those in the valuation report, or you're going to walk us through all of those in the valuation report. Okay, any comments or questions with respect to the valuation case assignment that you just turned in or about to turn in? Okay, so let's talk about our visit to Scalar. It'll be next Tuesday, so the 14th. We're currently scheduled to start straight up at 10 a.m. with Zach, and I believe that Cam Irby and Barrett Jackson will be with us. Do any of you know Cam or Barrett? I know Kira does, and Jacob Taylor does. So Cam and Barrett are graduates of our program a couple of years ago. And Cam went to work for Scalar as an intern, and then they converted him to a full-time employee. Barrett went to work for them upon graduation just as a full-time employee. They've done a good job there, and they have acted as mentors in the business valuation challenges. We've had our teams prepare for that challenge as well. But I believe all three of them are probably going to be with us. We might be introduced to Matt Tillotson as well. Zach and Matt, I think, share leadership of the company. They are partners in its ownership. I don't know if there's any other owners. I don't know if they've done any optioning to employees or anything. But they're going to be with us. And you're going to find that Zach is going to be dressed very nicely. He's a flashy dresser and a first-class guy. Matt, on the other hand, will be dressed kind of like you guys are. And in fact, I don't think I've seen Matt in anything more formal than a golf shirt in my life, or his. So I'll be on the 14th. You and I will be dressed in business attire, and I know that you know what I expect from that. And if you're wearing slacks or a skirt or what have you, fine. If you're not, just don't let us know that you're not. Okay. Like some of those people were talking about is at the top of this discussion. The Zoom ID is the same one we always use, the 429-550-6043. But you may have noticed that Zoom has begun requiring a password. And that only started, I think, within the last week or so, and that was a surprise to me. And I think they've done so because they have so many people using Zoom right now that there's been some breaches of Zoom, so they started requiring a password. So I'm using the same password and ID combination for every one of our meetings. And then we're going to discuss not only something of their firm and get an introduction to their firm, but Zach's going to walk us through the utility of something called a binomial lattice model. And binomial lattice models we've represented in the May term version of this course over the last couple of years, but I chose not to include it this time, largely because I knew Zach was going to do so. And then he's going to walk through some interesting or challenging valuation cases and go through Q&A. So with that said, I need for you to choose to be more participative and come up with more questions and be more responsive in this discussion than you were in our discussion with economic partners. In part because these guys are always looking for people, and I want them to see you. And in part because when you sit there and don't answer a question that I know 5 of you know the answer to, you make me look like an idiot. And I do a good enough job of that all by my lonesome. I don't need your help, okay? So be more responsive, which means brave and might mean risking being wrong. And it's okay to be wrong when you're a student. It's not okay to be timid. Timidity will keep you from getting a job. You can be wrong and be trained and taught what the right elements, okay? Any question about us going to Scalar? Okay, so let's talk about our final assessment and the valuation report assignment. We're not going to have a separate final assessment. I'm going to use the valuation report itself, the actual document and supporting files, as your final assessment, if you will, okay? We will have a valuation report presentation, but we're not going to have it as part of our class. Our valuation report presentation is currently scheduled to be done during our last class session together. And I had originally expected that I would have you guys partner up on that. So the two of you that are dealing with bits and bytes, the two dealing with DDD would partner up on that. But obviously, given what we're dealing with at the moment, that becomes a little more challenging. So what I've decided is to eliminate the final assessment as a separate assignment and to have you construct your valuation reports in all the wonderful detail that you know I'm looking for. And we're going to walk through an example of that today, of course. And then you're going to do a report presentation. And you will each do your own report presentations. And the way that I believe you should do this is to create a PowerPoint from the materials that you have in your valuation report. To use that PowerPoint, just as you see me do sometimes, and just we're doing today, and you've done it before, as the basis for your presentation. And then to record a Zoom session or some other media recording of your session where you can record what's on your screen, you can record your voice, you can record you physically to the extent that you want to go back and forth from the screen to you physically. And then you can edit it if you think afterwards you need to do so. And then you're going to upload whatever that file is, preferably an MP4 file. You're going to upload that along with your valuation report, your PowerPoint, and your supporting Excel files. You'll upload those and the media file to Canvas as you submit on this, submit the items for that assignment, okay? You won't submit anything separately for the final assessment. It'll all be submitted for the valuation report and presentation. It'll include your report, and the report needs to be polished. It'll include the supporting Excel files. It'll include the PowerPoint that you constructed that you then used as the basis for your presentation, and it'll include the media file, preferably as an MP4. And I don't want your file, your final report media to be more than half an hour. Because I've got to watch them. All of them. And of course, you should, since you're doing a presentation, you should be dressed for business. Okay? I'm going to have that due on May 1st. The evaluation presentation currently shows for April 28th. I'm pushing it to May 1st. And that's a couple of days before grades are due, so it'll give me some time to view those. I've got a few other things that are coming in from other classes as well. Any question about this? Okay. Does that seem like it'll be a good, fair assessment of what you have developed over the prior weeks? I think so. And I, of course, expect that you're going to use components that you've already developed. I mean, as we've gone through the assessment and these assignments with respect to the concepts we've dealt with and the case assignment, everything, you've been creating the elements of this. Oh, you may be polishing them, you may be packaging them, but you should have already done a ton of the legwork on this.